Is Irina Hara. She's a trauma therapist and the mother of a kid with special needs. Please welcome Irina Hara.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi. Oh,
Yes.
no? Okay. So yeah, my name is actually Irina Sandu. I have a PhD in sciences, but doesn't have a lot to do with the trauma therapy unless I use my creativity and the research focus, to say like that. On different platforms, social media, YouTube, you find me as Irina Hara, meaning a womb for peace, because this relates to my real vocation when I work with people who are people. And before I start with my presentation, I would like to invite you for a very short exercise that actually will link us to the previous speakers and maybe also to the ones that come after me. So just position yourself in a way that your feet, you can feel that they touch the ground and you have support from the chair. You can put your hands like that or whatever you feel. If you feel more comfortable, you can close your eyes or you just find the point of focus for your eyes or just keep a very slight gaze. So a little open, not fully closed. And we are going to breathe together 5 times. I call it an exercise of mindful presence. You inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. But when you exhale, the exhale should be a little bit longer than the inhale. So we can start 1, 2. And continue to do it until 5. You count by yourself. And observe what is happening inside of you, in your body, when the air enters the body through the nostrils and gets out through the mouth. There might be a sensation or a thought. Maybe there is something else in between. And when you finish the inhale and exhale, I'm going to say a word. And my request would be that you feel in your body where this word resonates with a place in your body. I suppose you are finished to breathe. You can continue to breathe normally, but the word is trauma. T-L-A-U-M-A. Trauma. How it resonates. Where exactly? How much? How quickly? Because this is the topic of my presentation, and usually when I speak to people about trauma, they either smile or even laugh, and they start to look to me and say, I'm not traumatized. Yeah, I had a difficult relationship with my parents. Yes, I'm burned out. Yeah, my relationship doesn't work very well. I have some health issues. My business doesn't work. I'm not traumatized. And then I smile even bigger and I answer back. Denial of one's reality is a first form of proving that trauma exists. And it is in our body, in our reality. And it's a very complex topic. I cannot share it in just 5 minutes. I'm just scratching the surface. But I'll do it by sharing tips and moments of my own trauma biography. Because it's an easier way for you to understand that trauma is in all of us. Trauma affects humanity nowadays. And we live in a perpetual survival mechanism. So here is me as a 2-year-old girl. I was born in Romania 50 years ago in a middle-class family, the firstborn among 3 kids, and I lived for 15 years under a totalitarian regime, a communist regime. And you would ask, what has to do with trauma? It has all to do. All the totalitarian regimes generate trauma at the collective level. And I've been imprinted by the trauma too. And then, right after the conception, something happened in the womb of my mother, and I got a no for life. That is trauma of identity. And you are going to ask me, how do I know? Because most of you probably, the first memory, conscious one that you have of yourself, is dated maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years age, not before. And I'm speaking about the womb. Well, first I worked in therapy setting and I could understand that this happened. And second, I had a very vivid and overwhelming experience in a workshop. We were invited to trust in the body, and the body showed to me an implicit memory meaning that at a certain point in an exercising pair, I was expressing what my body was telling me, and the body started an involution movement to the state of the embryo. I could feel inside my body, my ears, my eyes, my ears, the lips melting, and me becoming an embryo. That was a movement towards death, and I had it at the beginning. That means that along my life, I struggle to feel sometimes I am alive or I want to be alive. And that is a kind of initiation of a trauma biography. And then, between 1 year and 3 years of age, I was moved around because my both parents were working, and they moved me between them and the family of my grandparents. So I got an interrupted movement towards the mother because mother was not accessible, was not fully available to me. In an age when I still needed her, this created a trauma of love. And so on, other layers of traumatization happened, most of them still hidden in implicit memory, in the bottom of the iceberg that you see on the image. And then at the age of 8, a doctor puts a diagnosis on my heart and says, your heart has some issues, might be sick. You are prevented to do sports and regularly go in a hospital for checkups. It was a lonely period. A lot of doctors saw me. They didn't figure out what I was having. They were not educated to know and to understand trauma and to trace the trauma biography at such an early age. Because my heart was not sick. I did a checkup, a full one in Portugal, years later. My heart was in pain, but they didn't know. And the way to cope with the pain at this age was to bond with the trees outside in the garden of the hospital, because they were available actually. And this is what I would call a trauma survival mechanism. And what trauma does is to split our psyche. I'm speaking especially about psychotrauma because we can also have physical trauma or both of categories together. And Franz Rupert, the founder of this method I have studied and nowadays I'm using with other people and also for myself, the IOPT, Identity-Oriented Psychotrauma Therapy, he presented a very simple model because it can be much more complex. And the split generates 3 fragments when the traumatic or shock event happens. And one is, of course, the healthy part of us that is still connected with reality and can try to make sense of it. Then there is the part that is traumatized, and that part we always feel there is a danger and needs to be protected. And then there is the survival strategy that we create. And so this author, Franz Rupert, who is a German psychologist, he created a trauma biography model that he teaches also. And it has 4 different layers. I already spoke about identity and love trauma, but when the I and want function of a human being are already damaged through these 2 levels, then it's very probable that a person can get into the 3rd layer, that is sexual traumatization. And unfortunately enough, many children experience this in the world nowadays. And then on top of it, it can happen when the person is heavily abused along life, that there is a dynamic victim perpetrator that it installs, and we get stuck in trauma strategies. Nobody is safe from this, but there are different levels of this dynamic. And one thing that you have always to remember, that usually all these 4 levels of a biography of trauma are created based on a background that comes from previous generations. They say it's up to 4 or 7, but I suppose it's even more. But the mathematics of ancestral inheritance tells us that we are born from at least 4,000 people, men and women, along the last 400 years. There might be more even before. But this already creates in-depth and transgenerational trauma. And I see this often in therapy setting, how this presents itself when we work with our identity. Because identity means the sum of our conscious, subconscious life experiences. And it also includes this period I was speaking about, conception, pregnancy, birth, and right after. If we omit, ignore, or deny any of this part of our experience during the life, even those that we don't know about because we don't have a conscious memory, then we don't know who we are. And all the speakers here spoke about it, who I am. This is the big question. So in 2001, at 26 years old, I left Romania. And then I went to Italy for several years, Portugal, and Now I'm in Oslo since 2016. And I was trying to find myself because there was something in me telling I'm not fully there. I actually don't know who I am. And I was carrying this pain and deep sadness, and I didn't know what it was all about until I started to work in therapy, especially in trauma therapy. And trauma fundamentally is a disconnection from the core essence, from who we truly are. It disconnects. And it creates what we call an unhealthy identity, because we tend to identify with role models, our parents, siblings, colleagues, lovers, and so on. And sometimes the identification are harmful for us in terms of behavior or patterns and so on. And then we create coping or survival strategies along our life because we need to function. We need to go on with our life, but they prevent us to feel fully present and to be happy. And many times in my life, I like to put a mask. And many of you probably do this. We are somehow in this society that is highly traumatized. We are used to think that this is the normal way of being. I like to play the witch a lot and to show how powerful I am, like a witch. But we have also other different strategies. Overthinking, ADHD, work alcoholism, eating too much or too little, escaping and daydreaming. Even writing can be a kind of strategy if it's too much, too often. Shopping, all sorts of other addictions. They are all survival strategies. And I'm pretty sure that at least one or two attracted your attention because you resonate with it. And that means that you already have a trauma biography. And so in 2018, I started to study family constellation, art therapy, and then later, in the pandemic year, I had a big breakthrough because I understood I can do something for others, not only for myself. And I was already studying trauma therapy. And something very interesting happened in 2019. I was in one of these modules of family constellation training, and suddenly I woke up, and inside my head, I literally hear the sentence: I have to open myself to a bigger and more truthful energy. Would you guess what this energy is? Love, but not every kind. Self-love, which is one of the most difficult energy to actually embody in the times we live in. And so practically all this therapeutic work I'm doing for myself or with other people resumes to this one simple question that all of you already heard today. Who am I? Who are you? Like your core essence. But from a point of view of a healthy identity, meaning that you have a healthy mental structure. Of course, after some work you will, or you have done or you will do using this trauma model. Because a healthy identity means a healthy being. I have my own, I know who I am. I have my own self. I have an own will. I am able to use all my senses. I make sense of my emotions. I know how to express them in a healthy way. I am present and fully embodied as much as I can. I have thoughts and words that are fully mine, not borrowed from other people I've heard. And I'm able to establish constructive relationships. And I'm going to end with this quote from Gabor Mate, who is a major expert in addiction and trauma. A sign of disconnection from ourselves is not to listen to our gut feelings. We are born to know how to do it, but our experiences and traumas along our life create space for disconnection from our authentic self. And I would like to add, because we spoke a lot about leadership too, that to be a true leader means to lead yourself, to actually be master of your own life. It means a healthy identity. Recover from your trauma biography, this healthy identity, and get out of the survival mode. And for women, as I see many women here, you are a womb carrier. You have a very precious space here that is your center of power and creativity. When this space is clogged with traumas, from ancestral lineage and after along your life, and it's disconnected from your heart, life is not fulfilling. You are depleted, you go and burn out. You find all the time substitutes for pleasure and so on. Take care of your womb, work with womb trauma, and if you want to know more, I'm actually specializing in this area, and I wrote even a book available on Booksby. Thank you.